Welcome to an episode of Prepper Talk Radio, radio for the ready-minded. We are live on YouTube and Facebook, and super excited to bring to you guys a brief. Unfortunately, we have Scott who had has just got sick out of nowhere, and he's not feeling very good. And Shane and I have had quite the day. We were supposed to have a guest for last episode, and unfortunately the guest had a emergency situation. So we've been thrown for a few loops, but we're here. We're ready to rock and roll for at least a little while. We're going to talk about some commonly asked questions. We actually asked in our group, our Facebook group, what are some questions you want to have answered? We've seen some other questions around the interwebs, and we have a few things to share. But we also want to dive into what in the world is going on with some of these natural disasters and some emergencies, some other things. So we're super excited to be here. So it's Shane and I holding down the fort. And before we jump into the topics, though, we want to make sure you remember that we love our friends over at amp-3.net. Go over there, use code PrepperTalk, get 15% off your first aid kits. With what we're seeing in some strange places around the world, you're going to need your first aid kits. You're going to definitely want to have some gear that's ready to go. So make sure that you're, yes, thank you, Rebecca, for prayers to Scott. He definitely could use those prayers. Anyway, so make sure you use that code Prepper Talk Radio, Prepper Talk, pardon me, to get 15% off your emergency first aid kits over at amp-3.net. And don't forget about our friends over at Survival Frog. The code did change for Survival Frog to Prepper Talk 10. That's 10, Prepper Talk 10. And you'll still get the 10% off over there on all your prepping needs with those guys. So please jump on there and get your prepping needs. Help support the show. And we love our friends over at our affiliate links. And we know that you're getting good deals when you use those codes. So Shane, how you feeling, bro?
I'm pretty good. Like you say, it's been a bit of a day.
Right.
For all of us, it sounds like. But, I think part of that is, and I hear this a lot, and I suppose some of you have heard this as well, the October surprise, right? And I think it's probably something that happens every year and mainly relates to the stock market. I assume you can hear me well?
Oh, yeah, I can.
Okay, cool. Having an issue with my own audio here and my own headphones, so can't quite hear myself. But October surprise, and I think it got kicked off pretty darn well yesterday with that October surprise, right? And I think that's part of what I'm feeling today, and in addition to my workload, which is weighing heavily on me, but also just the events of the world. Since I try and keep up. And yesterday was a very heavy day, I think. And I've decided, to keep a close track this month. I do, watch events every single day, right? But I don't necessarily write them down in some type of ledger. So I'm going to do that for October. I'm going to go through each day, write a ledger so I can kind of reflect back and see if this October surprise really is a thing, or if that's pretty much every month nowadays. Every month.
Because you were telling me earlier that that's something that actually came out. Didn't you say Hillary Clinton?
Yeah.
Came out and said that there's going to be something that's going to happen in October that may even affect the elections.
Yep. She said she warns of an October surprise that will upend the election. Her word she used was upend. So obviously they are planning something. I mean, that's right. My take of it, right? I mean, anyway, why would they use those words? Why would she even speak of those types of things, right? So, hey,
well, they're always talking in code,
you guys, Joseph.
Yeah, Joseph Whited. Thanks you all for being here tonight with us. Mike, Utah Mike's old faithful Mike. So they always talk in code, bro, and they do, and they're trying to find ways to tell us things without tell us things. It's like we're going to say a few keywords, and those that know will know, and those that don't know are going to wonder what the heck that we were even talking about. And it's kind of like there's actually a word for it. It's called subtle speech, so it's definitely something that you're going to watch out for in those guys. But we did have a set of questions. We actually posted in our in our Facebook group, Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance. So for those that are not that are listening and would like to join that group, we actually just had somebody reach out to our Facebook page and send a message to us. He may or may not be listening. He said he was going to jump on. So if you're listening, thanks for being here. But
hey, Paris,
I just found you guys. Super excited to have a part of you. And I said, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to talk about it. So between the questions we have in the group and some other questions, we'll jump on that. And then we'll definitely be talking more about maybe what's going on with the hurricane, and then also some of the issues with the strike and the port strike.
Yeah, those of you who are kind of joining us a little bit later, because obviously we got a little bit of a late start here. Scott's feeling a little under the weather, so wasn't able to join us. So this is kind of impromptu. We have some questions. I think, Paris, we do a better justice if we waited for Scott next week and did the Q&A next week. So I've got a lot of great questions that have been submitted and posed on our page and so forth. I think it'd be best if we had Scott here and got everybody's comments, because we've got some great questions I'd like to really spend some good time on and get all of your comments as well.
Perfect. Let's just jump into that other stuff then.
Yeah, absolutely. It's again, October surprise is what's on my mind, and I'm watching that closely. Like Rebecca said here, I've seen this a lot as well on the shorts that have been popping up in front of me. People going and stocking up on toilet paper and other essentials at the Sam's Club or the Costco and so forth. And so, and maybe that's because what happened yesterday. Maybe that's what inspired a lot of people and is getting them to actually move and do something, right?
You're talking about the port strike, right? Is that what you're talking about, Shane?
Well, yeah, that as well, the strike as well. So that's a big part about it, especially those on the East Coast who will probably be the most affected. The longshoresmen or the dock workers strike, 45,000 people. Our corporate office is on the East Coast as well, and I've got some projects, and I told them just go ahead and ship that product, get it out to me out here, because there are potentially shortages of fuel after a week or two. And I'm just not going to take the chances and get that stuff shipped out here. I've also heard that this has been anticipated. So a lot of retailers like Costco, like Sam's Club, and others have stocked up, have got their shipments in here, have been kind of expecting this, and should be good for hopefully a couple of weeks of inventory, if not more. But a couple of weeks into this, and it could get ugly. But
yeah,
I think honestly, my opinion is this probably won't last that long. I think the companies will cave and give in to the demands of the workers and because sounds to be really critical.
I watched a video and they were talking about how they said something along the lines of, I don't think the world realizes just how important dock workers are and what we bring to the table and how we actually really facilitate the whole distribution system as they unload. Now, I was talking to another person, actually my brother-in-law, and what was interesting is that he flies freight. And so he has said that his work is busier than ever in terms of freight being flown via airplane. So the bulk of the freight that comes from these foreign countries in China and India and wherever else is going to be on boats. And so the ports are legitimately a big deal. And I don't know why the West Coast isn't jumping on here. If there's maybe it's a different union or something, but the East Coast, I think it's from Maine all the way down and through into Texas, right?
Yeah, down into the Gulf.
Into the Gulf. All of the ports are on strike. And they were saying, look, once the first week, yeah, you might be a little bit nervous. The second week, we're going to start seeing some things. By the third week, the world's going to know that things are happening. And I'm hoping, like you, Shane, that they clear it out sooner than that.
Yeah, I think they're definitely using that as leverage, right? Which I don't agree with. I think that's wrong. But and their demands seem to be pretty. They want a 50% pay increase. No, they want 77% pay increase over the next 6 years. They were offered 50. They turned that down. I mean, that's like 7% a year, which seems reasonable. I mean, most of us don't get that kind of pay raise every year, right? But and from what I understand, they're already very well paid at these docks, these unions. So I don't know what to think about it other than greed and all those, money and power and all that kind of stuff and especially listening to that individual with the union. He seemed rather nefarious in his comments.
Well, he basically said, "We'll shut you down. We don't care."
Yeah.
He kind of had an attitude a little bit. And I don't know,
Absolutely.
we might have some listeners that are dock workers on the East Coast. If you are, hit us up, send us an email at preppertalkradio.
Yeah, we don't know what the truth is. The facts are. Yeah, we really don't know.
Yeah. We only have or see, so to speak, one side of it. We only get what the mainstream media or what we see in the news outlets, right? And who knows what those are. Speaking of news outlets, I thought I had a funny meme come across my feed just today. They're like, so you mean we actually have people that are fact checkers? Well, fact checkers, maybe we should do maybe we should take all the fact checkers and put them on a TV show and let them know what all the facts are. Well, wait a minute. Isn't that the news or what the news is supposed to be? Right. So I thought it was funny that, news today, we're supposed to have real people telling us what the facts on the ground are, and they're not. They're totally twisting and giving us all kinds of, their spin on it, if you will. And so, yeah, if you're a dock worker, if you're along the East Coast, if you're related to a dock worker, or what the real deal is, give us some heads up if you're listening.
Yeah, I believe there's a port also closed in Portland or Seattle as well. I don't recall exactly which one, but yeah, I think in addition to what happened yesterday with Iran attacking Israel, I'm not going to go into that. I don't know all the facts, but it was unprecedented attack. No, definitely. I mean, obviously the U.S. is downplaying the damage and such, where Iran is saying, hey, we hit 90% or 80% of their targets, something like that. But the video I saw tends to make me believe more what Iran said is true, where a lot of those rockets actually hit. And that, in addition to, obviously, like Rebecca said, the Helene, absolutely unbelievable what happened, what's happening over there. Completely unexpected. Just to see, the city Asheville just completely disconnected from the world. The roads, bridges, all torn down. The flooding is just unbelievable. I don't have words for it. I wish that I was closer and that I could load up my truck and get out there and help out.
Yeah, it's pretty serious.
And maybe that's, an excuse. Distance is an excuse, but
somebody was saying that there's they feel like, and I don't know if they were anywhere near Hurricane Katrina, but they feel like this is Hurricane Katrina level of damage that this Hurricane Helene put through the Carolinas. Somebody else told me, by the way, and of course, I don't know how, I kind of need to be careful with this on YouTube, but somebody was telling me that there's some land out there that has some potential mining, some stuff underneath the land there, that's probably part of why they are turned on the weather machine and focused on the Carolinas, because there might be some things that they want to have over there. And, some people believe in that stuff. And I do. I believe there's a definite weather modification, and they have some of that stuff. So if if you're listening right now and you're like, oh, there they go again with that tinfoil stuff. Well, look it up. There's some definite real concerns about how that could be real. So we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, trying to multitask here. Yeah. We have some of you commenting on Facebook and some commenting on YouTube. And I know you can't all see each other's comments here. Most of our comments are coming in on YouTube, so that's a little bit better platform. But let me bring up Tom Hines here. I've seen a few letters, official-looking letters from sheriff's departments that regarding ammo and carrying firearms and so forth in these areas. And unfortunately, I think that is true. They seem to be very limited on time, and I think they've expired. But I mean, they say they can also be extended. But unfortunately, I think that's true. And I find that very disconcerting, if that's the right word, for a sheriff's department to actually issue that type of letter. If it's a police department or government agency, okay, I understand. But a sheriff's department, that's very not cool. If that,
yeah.
I mean,
sheriffs are supposed to be more constitutional minded anyways. So that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah. So
here's Practical shares that he has friends in North Carolina and one in South Carolina. and they both have said that they are wiped out, no
Mhm.
cell electricity, gas, etc., and they have no clue how long it's going to take to be restored.
Yeah,
That's yeah,
I've
I'm
seen
seeing a lot
lots.
of that too. There's some, I don't know how they're getting maybe Wi-Fi of some kind, or I don't know what they're doing, but I've seen some videos of some folks. Maybe they take the video on their phone, and then when they get out of town or finally to a place, they upload it. But I've seen some pretty significant damage to so many areas. It's really crazy.
Yeah, and Joseph, here, what I've heard is actually it's 100 times the damage of Katrina. That's what I've heard. But who knows what the truth is nowadays, which is hard to imagine. Um, crazy, crazy.
Yeah,
Uh,
one of the things that there's some other prepper groups that I'm in that are talking about the damage, and they're like, one of the things that I think it's doing, and I I kind of have a mixed emotion about this because
mhm.
when you have a natural disaster like this and you see the damage and people get the word out, people start to wake up to the reality that they need to have some preparations and they need to be ready for things, and that things like that can happen in areas. I don't know if you mentioned Asheville, right? Is that what you said?
Mhm.
That's
Yeah, I
so
believe
far
that's it.
inland. I don't know if you've seen the map, but that's super far inland. That's a place where you would not ever expect a hurricane to even get to. That's part of the reason why there's like this idea that maybe the weather, machine was,
Yeah.
magnifying this a little bit because it's so far inland that a lot of people are like, we wouldn't expect a hurricane, the winds, the storms, the damage to be so great this far inland. And that's the reality of some of these natural disasters now. Is you guys, as you're listening, we just don't know what's going to happen in the area we're in, and to say, well, that'll never happen in my area is just, I think we need to stop saying that altogether, because we just never know what's going to happen in our area. And not that we should be prepared for not that you can be prepared for every 100% for everything, but at least make sure you're telling your neighbors about, hey, have you guys heard about what's going on? This is a good one of the questions that I know we're going to talk more about Q&A next time, but one of the questions that I got from the gentleman who reached out to us today, who just found us today, was said that, how do I get my friends and family to
Yeah.
become more prepper minded? Well, I feel like that you should send them links to videos that are when there are natural disasters like this. And unfortunately, we don't want to, capitalize on the misfortune of other people, but at the same time, this is a great message to send out and say, look, do you see what's happening in the South Carolinas right now? Do you see what's happening so far inland? They never would have thought that it would happen. All the things you're telling me about how you never would have thought this would happen is happening. And
Well,
so
yeah.
let's get prepared.
And like Rebecca said here, I've seen comments by this administration saying, "Oh, the public's going to need to step up and help pay for this," whereas they're sending billions overseas. It's sickening. Um,
Yeah.
Not another dime should go outside of this country for any reason whatsoever until all of those people have been taken care of. And I'm not one to say the government needs to take care of everybody. I don't believe that at all. However, they've already set plenty of precedents on rescuing people from natural disasters, and I believe that is up to communities. I believe that's up to states first. But like I said, the federal government has already set that precedent, and yet they don't seem to be stepping up this time when it's actually far worse than previous events. And
See that?
again, dollars are going overseas, and it's sickening.
Well, here you go. Sandra
Yep.
pointed out what I was talking about earlier,
Yep.
is that underneath Asheville, there's probably a huge lithium deposit.
Yep. Nearby.
I've not done any geological records or studies, but I wouldn't doubt it. That's so legit.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen some of these videos where the water just comes down the side of the mountain. People have no idea this is coming, and there's nothing you can do. Absolutely nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
No way to prepare for that, and there's no way to stay out of the way to say potentially, I'm not going to build in this area because I have concerns of flooding. No way whatsoever to know. It's really sad.
Yeah, I saw one video of a lady who was going through the neighborhood, and she didn't show it, thankfully, but she was talking about how they have actually come across bodies. And that's
Yeah,
just not
I've heard
something
that too.
that's, that's real apocalypse kind of stuff, happening in the world. And so you just got to, yeah, it's going to be tough. And here's what's crazy is that this happened in the Carolinas. And we're still wondering what happened to the people that were affected by the fires in Maui. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's still,
Yeah,
there's still things happening around the world that haven't been resolved 100% yet. And it's just, I feel grateful for where I live and the fact that I've got we've got a little bit of safety up here in these here hills, but anything can happen any moment for us too, where we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I agree. Like, how do you prepare for a wall of water and debris coming at you? I mean, the only thing that you can do is practice. We talked about practicing, if you have a minute to prepare or 30 seconds to prepare or 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes. I mean, when a hurricane is coming, you kind of know that, hey, there's some potential damage here. We need to be, you should be on higher alert, if you will. So in that regard, sure, people should have known. However, you don't know what the actual damage of that hurricane is going to do. When I was in Florida, hurricane hit, and it was supposed to be level 3 or whatever, I can't remember. And then by the time it hit landfall, it was just nothing more than a tropical storm. So we had boarded up all the windows. We had done a bunch of work. We got a bunch of water bottles. We cleared out the shelves in the store, and we had a few things that we were prepared for, but then it turned out to fizzle out into nothing. And so, that's the good idea, is to be ready, be prepared for the worst, but then also realize that if it fizzles out, then you're good to go and you move on. But I just think that there's a lot of folks that are right now wishing they probably would have had more water bottles. And I don't know if you can store a boat like on the side of your road as part of your preps, but when a flood comes, what do you, I mean, you can't get a surfboard out and ride the thing in, you know what I mean? Like, you got to just hope that it, when it hits you, it levels up slowly and you can just kind of get out of there. I saw another funny meme too. And, you see those lowrider, where they put a lift kit on their car. The gang members put a lift kit on their car. And so, you know what I'm talking about, Shane? Those where the car can go up really high and the wheels are super small. And so it showed a guy driving through, like, the top of the wheels were under the water, but his car was above it because his like Cadillac or whatever, his Escalade, whatever, was jacked up. And he's like, yeah, now they're not making fun of him now, So I thought that was another funny meme.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a benefit to having lifted vehicles in that area right now. Sorry, just trying to chat.
Real quick, Practical Scott, he came down. Yeah. I think he ate something that didn't agree with him, and he was not doing good last we talked to him.
And he also had surgery last week, and
it might be the 24-hour flu. So just keep him in your prayers. But he did say he was. He actually had a surgery on Friday, and just as a quick update, he had a surgery on Friday for his back. That went really well. He's happy to kind of feel he's recovering from that, but then he ate something today that gave him some stomach flu, and he's not. Anyways, not to get too graphic, but he's not doing well, and so he decided. He asked if we could carry the show. We had a guest at 5 as well that had a significant issue happen to her. And so we're like, you know what, Shane, should we just go live at 6 and talk about a few things? Kind of wing it.
A little wrap session. Yeah.
Wrap session. So here we
are.
Another
thing that stood out to me for October 1st that I found out, I don't know if you guys have heard, is that apparently Congress adjourned for 30 days. So they're not even around to deal with these problems. Not that they ever do much anyway, but I find that quite interesting. Oh, let's bail on October surprise month. Right. So we don't have to deal with any of this stuff.
Well, what's also interesting is the Congress constantly, I think it's every year, at least in the last several years, it seems like every year they're like, we're going to shut down the government unless we come to a deal or some kind of arrangement. And the Democrats are blaming the Republicans. The Republicans are blaming the Democrats. They're not shutting down. They're going to shut down the government. It's going to be their fault. We're not going to have all this stuff. And then last minute, it always pulls up, and then we get our government up and running and moving forward. So maybe this is the October surprise that they actually do shut it down and don't come to an agreement. Who knows? It might be the year they finally cry wolf.
Yeah, the end of the U.S. government fiscal year was end of September, right? So in a new fiscal year, might as well take the first entire month off. I think I'll do that in January. I think I'll take the whole month off. That'd be nice.
Yeah, the rest of us can't take a month off. Why do you guys get to take a month off? It's crazy.
Yeah, they make the rules, right? So. But let's see what else did I want to bring up. On try and keep this short and just
I
wanted
think
to be here
another
for you guys.
I think another really good talking point right now for our friends and neighbors and others, of course, they're going to be head in the sand. You know, if some people will wake up to this, not everybody, but some people just let them know, hey, did you know the ports are closing? Did you know there's a strike? Did you know that there's if they don't negotiate the terms of this deal for these dock workers, we could literally have shortages again. And I don't remember. It's quite a far. It's kind of far up there, but I think it was either Whited or Practical that was saying that in his area where he lives, there's kind of the short supply on the shelves, anyways. And so add to that an actual shortage from the coast. I mean, it may not be to the levels of COVID era where there was like backed up and they just couldn't get in there and work, but it's still going to be I think it's going to be a significant issue. I mean, those boats carry so much stuff from overseas that I think we're going to, if they don't negotiate some kind of deal soon, those dock workers may prove how important they really are to the economy.
Well, and it proves how important it is to be a prepper too, right? Just to minimize the effect of anything like this on your daily life. Keep your life more normal. But yeah, a few other things that stood out to me.
Real quick, Shane. Yeah, Practical. I did get the message, but I've been going 100 miles an hour right up to the hour. That's why we were a little bit late. So I haven't actually looked at it. I'll look at it in a minute.
Yeah, I listen. I watch Viking every once in a while. Don't necessarily agree with his stance and on politics and such, and so I and some of sometimes his attitude's a little bit skewed that I don't like, but overall he's good. He seems like a good dude. Here's something I wanted to ask you guys, see if you've seen anything. Before I jumped on here, I saw that one YouTube channel was some news channel like over in the Middle East was showing a second wave of ballistic missile attacks from Iran happened a couple hours ago. I haven't been able to confirm that. I don't know if anybody else has seen that. But that would be also a very big deal if that's true. But I only saw one source, so I don't know if that's true. And then also, I saw that an X7 solar flare is on its way here, CME. It's like the second biggest this year. And then what else? Oh, also, just regarding yesterday, again, not to rehash this or get too deep into it, but what I found very interesting is that the U.S. very clearly stood up and defended the attack with Israel, and is going to be a part of the retaliation. And they very clearly said that. So to me, that's a big red flag that says, oh, the U.S. has declared war on Iran, because Israel is saying, oh, this is Iran's declaration of war on Israel. That's what we're going to consider it. And so the U.S. has very clearly helped defend. I don't know how much they really did. They said they sent off like 15 rockets to intercept some of these ballistic missiles. I don't think they said if any of them actually hit or took down any of these ballistic missiles, but they are there to support Israel and to further this war on Iran. So I think it's only going to get worse from here, because when Israel strikes back again, Iran will do the same. And Russia has also said, Putin has also told Israel to get out of Lebanon or there will be consequences. I think that was his exact wording. Not
just that, didn't they also say something along the lines that if they updated their nuclear treaty or their nuclear rules of engagement, that if any kind of threat comes, they're going to go for it.
Well, we know Russia backs Iran as well, and Iran's getting missiles and other supplies and whatever directly from Russia, and so they're all this is all connected. It's just going to continue to accelerate. I don't know what's going to slow it down. I don't know what
Did you send me that link?
Israel just steps back and says, "Okay, we're going to calm down," but that doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Didn't you send me a link, Shane? That or maybe it was Scott. I may have seen it somewhere else. But didn't Israel bomb the headquarters? What they think are the headquarters of Hezbollah?
Oh yeah, they did in Lebanon. When was that? It was Thursday, Friday last week. It was last week. Yeah. Yeah, it was last week, middle of last week. I
So
think it was.
So is the attack on Israel a retaliation from that?
Well, I think from Iran, that I think that's part of it. They're calling it their retaliation for what Israel's been waiting for a couple of months now, because Israel attacked or killed that guy, and of course I can't remember now, who was in Iran. He was one of Hezbollah's generals. Killed him in Iran while he was staying there, going to some funeral or something like that, and killed them in Iran. So that was supposedly, they're saying that
Oh
was
yeah,
retaliation
that's
for
right. That was
that.
last month.
Yeah, last month, a couple of months ago.
Yeah, a
And
couple
so
months
they're
ago.
saying it is for that event in particular, and they said that's their retaliation. And of course, Israel says, oh, they're going to retaliate, and I mean that could happen any minute now. So yes, why did I believe Gog and Magog?
Yeah, definitely. We're seeing some of that serious. I know I mentioned it in the last kind of world news report that we talked about was the you know Damascus is right over there in that area, and that's one of the prophecies that Isaiah talks about, is that when Damascus is completely, or maybe it's Revelation, when Damascus
Mm-hmm.
is destroyed as a city, that's the
Yeah.
longest. From what I mean, I guess Sumeria has some things over there, but Damascus is the longest standing city in the world, according
Yeah.
to unless somebody knows something I don't know. And that once that is just destroyed, that's going to be one of the signs of the times.
Yeah.
And so the fact that all these bombs are going off over there, who knows? But one,
Well,
starts
even the last
pointing.
couple of years, they've been hit heavy by the U.S., by I think by Israel as well, and that city is in ruins. It absolutely is, but I'm sure it can get worse.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Practical, for the reminder. Make sure to hit the button for us so the algorithm knows we're live and people are watching and
Yeah.
people are liking it. I think there's a really good point that was made in our group just recently too. Somebody, one of our members in the group who posted that they're in North Carolina and they have no power and they have been using their generator. And one of the things they said, thank goodness the generator works. And you mentioned, Shane, that we ought to constantly be, testing our gear, making sure that it's in good working order. You don't want to leave your generator sitting for a year or 2 or 3 and then hope it works when you turn it
Yeah.
on, because it's been, grimy, or, you know what I mean? If you didn't clean it properly the last time and you just kind of throw that stuff in there, it might need to be warmed up again. So I guess that was a really good point. I think that if you're going to be in an area where you're going to have those threats, that you need to be making sure that you're testing your gear on a regular enough basis.
Yeah, exercise that generator every month, every quarter at minimum. Make sure you got ethanol-free gas in there, or you're using an additive to extend the life of the gas. Make sure change your oil every year, regardless of whether you use it or not. I've got a generator that's been around for 20 plus years, and it still starts first pull.
Nice.
So it would really suck to pull that out and need power, and then you just can't get it going. Then you got to pull it apart. You got to do all the maintenance right when you need it most. So yeah, definitely stay on top of it.
Yeah, very good point. So
yeah, I think that's all I really had today. Just those kind of topics here, those points. Just watch out for October surprise. It's hopefully it'll get better, but I kind of don't think it will.
So I just want to talk about one more thing before we go. And this is something I think that we all need to be aware of, no matter where we live, because it can really affect us in it. And there's a friend of mine, we've actually interviewed him on the show. He's very politically active in the state of Utah, Eric Mutzos. He received a report of somebody that was broad daylight, middle of the day. Some immigrant came to their home and was trying to break in, and it was the mom and the kids were home, and the kid, I think the mom was calling 911, and the kid was called her dad. And the dad posted this and sent it to Eric to put it out. And it actually got retweeted by Elon Musk on X, by the way, which is super cool, because that means that really got the awareness out there. But it was literally the broad daylight in a town in Utah that you would never think this kind of stuff would happen in. It was in a town called Kaysville, Utah, that's like pretty conservative, pretty, suburban. And in the middle of the day to be, imagine you're a dad and you're at work and your kid calls you in a panic saying there's somebody trying to break into the house and they don't know if they're going to live. And you're like, I'm at work. Like, what do I do? Like, you got to, so it's important to train your kids on certain scenarios so that they know what to do. Thankfully, the kid called them. He said, go find mom. What's mom doing? Mom's calling 911. Good. And they were able to, thankfully, the police got there and handled the situation. But that's something that you wouldn't necessarily consider in a small town or not necessarily a small town, but in a conservative town like Kaysville, Utah. So no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, whether it's a natural disaster like we're seeing with the craziness of the Hurricane Helene, or it's some immigrant in your town that's not totally undocumented. And I don't know, we might get flagged for saying this in on YouTube, but totally undocumented guy just with I think he had a baseball bat or something, and he was trying to bash the windows in and get into the house in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Like if it can happen, and this was the thing, this was what Elon Musk retweeted. If it could happen in Kaysville, Utah, it could happen anywhere. And Elon Musk retweeted my buddy, and he's like, true. And so I thought that was really cool. And that's also a reminder to all of us to make sure that we're vigilant and we're aware. I have cameras around my house. Like I can see the front door. I can see out the back door. I have some, no matter where I am in the house, I can just bring up my cameras on my phone and see that kind of stuff. So I mean, I highly recommend that you stay vigilant, stay aware, and keep your kids, this is not something you want to have as your family night discussion. So kids, when we get, when an immigrant comes and bashes our door in, this is what we do, but unfortunately that's where we are today. And we got to be teaching our kids, teaching our families, helping everybody we can prepare, because crazy things are happening.
Okay. I wanted to do a retraction real quick here. I talked about Viking Preparedness. I do love that guy. Pastor Joe Fox. I love that guy. I was thinking pinball. So when I made a comment previously about Vikings politics, I retract that completely. That was wrong. I was thinking pinball. Viking Preparedness, fantastic. He is one smart dude. I listen to him as much as I can. So for the record.
There we go. It's official. I may edit out. No, this is the live. I don't edit out the lives, but I was going to say I could edit that out.
No. I'll own up my mistakes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see what we have as comments here.
Yeah, EcoFlows and Blue 80s are great from what I know, but that's a killer deal if you got those.
Yeah,
totally agree. You need to have a couple of those. Keep them charged up. Those are quick and easy. They don't last as long as I think they are. You kind of see online, you think they're going to last for a long, long time. You got your fridge plugged in. It'll run your fridge for so long. I found the one that I built. It's like got 200 amp hours, something like that. I ran my fridge for just less than 24 hours on it. And just a regular standard fridge, nothing too special.
Sounds like you and Abby Greenwood have the same goal this month.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Abby, I don't know if you were on earlier, but Shane said that he's making a list as well this month of all the major events that are happening every day of October, just to see what this October surprise might end up being.
Yeah, I'm probably trying to be a little more diligent this month than I usually am.
Let's see. Anybody else?
But lots of looters, lots of looting going on. What I was going to mention, what brought that thought up about Viking Preparedness, he put out a video a few days ago that he says he and his band, his guys are going heavy wherever they go, as in locked and loaded, carrying their ARs, carrying their plate carriers and all that good stuff. Ready really for anything. So
yeah, that's crazy. So I guess I have one more story before we end, but my friend, I have a good friend here in Utah. She went to go to San Francisco. There was apparently some kind of convention that her son went to, and she went with him to kind of have a little vacation while she was over there. And she was, Pier 39, the Ghirardelli factory, all the fun stuff that you want to go see in little sightseeing, in San Francisco. Well, apparently she ends up turning down the wrong street, and she ends up in zombie apocalypse, like people bent half over, hunched over. Like she could feel, and she's a pretty spiritual lady, and she could feel the darkness and the demonic spirit that was all throughout that neighborhood and throughout that area. What was funny, she text messaged me later and she says, we just got in our Uber back to the hotel, and the guy in the Uber is like, yeah, if you're here visiting, just make sure you don't go to this one neighborhood. And they're like, that's the neighborhood we took the wrong turn down, so it was kind of it was kind of funny that she ended up down there, and she just got to see the reality of maybe what's happening with the fentanyl. There's got to be fentanyl overdosing going on there, and just literal zombie. I mean, she was like, what is happening here? This is just so evil. This, the feeling that was there. And unfortunately, beautiful cities like San Francisco and other major metropolises like that are now just degrading into horrible. It's sad to see. And the homelessness, the drug overdose, the life that's happening there is just not, it's not what you hope would happen. So if anybody's listening and has experienced those things and you're on, I'd love to hear from folks who are boots on the ground in any of these areas that are listening. Shoot us a message, and maybe we'll, give us leave. Even if you want to do a little quick video clip, we might, we'll see about showing it at some point, but we'd love to have you on and talk to you about what's going on in your area and how you're surviving and how you're doing, especially if you're in the Carolinas and you want to maybe talk to us about what you did to survive and thrive through that whole horrible situation. Our prayers go out to you and our family and your families. If you're in the Carolinas, if you're listening, if you have family over there, just know that we're praying for those that are affected by the hurricane. Also, praying that this port thing will resolve quickly so that we can get back to functioning properly. And any last words, Shane?
Well, I guess my last words would be, I think October is a good time to stay home, right? Not plan any trips, not really go anywhere. Unfortunately, I got a daughter that's heading out to Japan tomorrow for 12 days. And I'm a little concerned, but
yeah.
Well, I'm sure it'll be fine.
I'm going to have to fly into California the first week of November. So maybe who knows? You're right. But, got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, we gotta live the regular, your normal life, keep life as normal as possible. But I don't know. I'm a homebody anyway, so that's easy for me to say. I'm not much for traveling. I'm not much for, going around traveling the world. I like to see my own state. I like to know it intimately. So maybe that's just me, but for what it's worth.
So practical, we've talked about it already in the show. I'll put a link in the show notes for it then for sure for that video from Viking to let everybody know. So if you want to know what that video was from Viking, it'll be in the show notes once this thing posts and I get a chance to update the show notes. So if you don't see it right away, just come back again and you'll have a chance to see it. So I'll go ahead and share that. You guys, thanks so much for being with us for a little shorter live.
Well, not really. 43 minutes, Paris.
Yeah, I guess. I know, but we've been like the last live was I just posted. In fact, I'm just going to post it tomorrow. 57 minutes last live. So it is a little shorter, but it's still pretty solid live. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. Our prayers go to Scott.
With everybody always.
We're hoping that Scott feels better and that we actually have some really cool guests lined up over the next several weeks. So stay tuned for those. Again, remember to go visit our friends over at amp-3.net and get your first aid kits. Use code PrepperTalk and get a discount, 15% discount on your first aid kits. And Jace Medical, man, with all the supply chain issues, I know the East Coast is kind of further away from China, but India still has some of those things. And so make sure that you're getting your medicine. Go to Jace Medical, JASE medical.com, and get your antibiotics, get your daily medicines, stock up on those things. When crap hits the fan, there's not going to be a pharmacy that's available and receiving shipments. So make sure you have your stockpile already built up. You guys, thanks so much again for all that you are and are listening and being part of the show. You've been listening to Prepper Talk Radio for the ready-minded. We are the podcast for the prepared. Have a great evening, and we'll see you on the next one.
Love you guys. See you next week.